And perfect. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to the Business and Brews Show. My name is Ryan Smeltz, and Gavin unfortunately couldn't be with us this evening, but I told him I would give him a shout out. So if you would go ahead and shoot Gavin a little message or give him some props in the comments below. This evening, I have the pleasure of introducing Miss Kim.
Thank you.
Kim, if you would tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
No, thank you so much for having me. My name is Kim Lemaster. Everybody calls me Ms. Kim because I've been a teacher and a nanny and a tutor for upwards of 20 years now. And so I run a parent coaching business where I teach parents all the how-tos of what they need to do to get their kids to be good human beings,
Nice.
which we know a lot of kids are not right lately. So that's it's a great business. I love working with families. I love working with kids, and so it just seemed to be a really good fit for me.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
perfect. So, how's your week been so far?
It has been a fantastic week. I have I know we'll get a chance to talk about it. I've been doing some volunteer work that's been really on my
Nice.
heart, so it's been a great week. It's been good. What about you?
Absolutely. We just had a cookout this afternoon over in
Nice.
Durham, so that was pretty fun. And yeah, just working, kind of working to get set up here. We got our new studio.
Looks great. I know this was really exciting. I appreciated some insight and learned some
Yeah.
stuff for myself for my own business. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Looks great in here.
Just yeah. So today, I know you were curious, so we'll talk about it.
Yes.
This is the First Squeeze American Wheat Ale by
Nice.
Raleigh Brewing Company.
Nice. Cheers.
Absolutely, it is business and brews, so stay true to our name, I
Mhm.
suppose. Before we get started, I just want to touch a little bit. So some people probably see some things in the background or on the table. These are either people who are supporting our show or have been on the show and
Awesome.
have paraphernalia. So if you have any questions about some of the Munjo or the David Geig art in the background, then feel free to leave a comment and I'll be happy to put the links in there for you. But
Nice.
Ms. Kim, I wouldn't mind if you're ready for it, just jump right in and get started.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Miss Kim Talks is the name of my business, and it's somewhere you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and I've been on Pinterest. Miss Kim Talks is something that kind of came about as an opportunity for me to take a lifetime of experience. I have two grown kids myself that are 20 and 19. Both work full-time jobs, are amazing. You know, they work at the church. They just are amazing human beings. And our job is to raise kids to be better humans than we ever were. And I think that because of all the experience in a classroom, I've taught pre-K, I've taught K-5, I've tutored up to 5th and 6th grade, and nannied for a family for many years. And so it just gave me an opportunity to put what I already knew and make it into a business.
Yeah.
And so now that's what I do. I work with families and I sit down with them, go over what are some of those really downward spiral things that happen in our week. A lot of times I would say like 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. are the most difficult hours of the day for any family. Getting out the door to go to school or work, and then the after dinner, getting everybody to bed. And that is supposed to be, you know, for most of us, that's our only family time that we get.
Mhm.
And so I hear families all the time, they're like, I can't stand that I'm always yelling at my kids, let's go, let's go, let's go, where are your shoes, where's your homework, where'd you get this out? And they're like, that's the only memories that my kids are going to have of me.
Yeah.
And it's so true. Like, we look back, I don't know about when you were a kid, but I remember my mom standing at the door and being like, I'm leaving in 4 minutes, and if you're not in the car, I'm leaving. I was like, can't stand hearing it anymore. But luckily, it's something that we can fix. And there are just little things that we can do that can really help things to be more smooth in our routine. And this really, you don't even have to have kids for some of this to work. You know, I have one program that's called Speak How They Hear. And it's because a lot of times we want to talk how we perceive the conversation, but sometimes we have to stop and think, how does the other person hear it?
Yeah.
You know, we talk to our boss one way, we talk to our kids one way, we talk to our spouse one way. And that program in particular teaches about being very clear with your expectations, clear with what you're sharing, being very confident in what you have to share, and then being consistent. Because that's where most parents crash and burn, right?
Right.
If you do this again, you're going to be grounded forever. Nobody's ever grounded forever. None of us have ever been grounded forever. Otherwise, I would still be grounded from when I did something wrong in 8th grade. So it's about being consistent. And that's what I teach parents to do. And so I have different programs like, no more bedtime battles. Because if anybody's ever had to put to bed a 2, 3, 4-year-old or even up to, even teenagers, getting them to get to bed because they need rest, can be really challenging. And you're tired from the end of the day. You've been working all day and you walk in the door and you've got that chaos. And there are things that we can do to really put the parent back in charge.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what we need. And again, I like to also show like how it doesn't have to all be about parenting, right? Some of us need to be in charge of our lives, right? We let circumstances around us control what's going on, but ultimately we're in charge. And when you're running your own business, because that's what our focus is here, you have to be in charge and you have to have ownership of what you're doing, what your business is going to be, what you're going to do on a daily basis. And if you're just kind of, flying by the seat of your pants, well, you're not going to be successful,
Yeah.
And if you are, it's haphazard at best.
Yeah.
And so those are kind of the main things that I work with. A lot of fun, creative, discipline things. I've talked to a lot of parents, like, one of the things I do is, if they won't go to bed, okay, well, you can stand up then here in the middle of your room, and that's it. You can stand as long as you want. Go ahead, go for it. Stand as long as you want. No talking. Nope. No dancing. No kneeling. Nope. Just stand there. And anybody that's had to stand for any amount of time, you're like, yeah, this is not really fun anymore. I also had them write paragraphs, about things that they've done wrong. Okay, well, write down what you should have done, what I asked you to do, and then give me 3 details, and they're like, whoa, I don't want to do all this. I'm like, well, then you should have just picked up your room in the first place, right? So I have kind of some fun, creative ways to get people to really kind of take matters back into their own hands and not letting kids run their house.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I work with the most.
That's pretty cool. So I heard you talk a little bit about kind of how you got started and why you got started. And basically the 2 primary things you offer, which kind of sounds like parenting and wellness. So,
Mm-hmm.
Taking care of your kids or being in charge of yourself.
Yeah.
What would you say, like, if you had to think back on lessons learned, good, bad, or ugly, what would you say some lessons that you learned in developing this experience, and how did they turn out?
Yeah, great question, because I hear that a lot. They're like, oh, Miss Kim, you act like you're so perfect. What, I have made more than my share of parenting mistakes. One in particular that I can recall involved me at the food court in Crabtree Valley Mall with my 2 teenagers. And we were just having a nice lunch, right? And I was like, hey guys, let's do a quick selfie. Here, everybody just smile. And they were both like, we don't want to do a picture. I'm like, what do you mean I want to do it? Come on, let's just do a quick selfie. And everybody, like, I just want to show, like, Miss Kim's at lunch with her kids. And they were like, we don't really want to do that. And for some reason, that day, that moment, I completely lost. And I stood up in the middle of the food court and made a complete fool of myself, yelling at my kids. Oh, so you don't want to be on a picture? You want to be on your phones all the time? You're staring at your phones. We could have had the picture done 12 times by now. Completely lost it. And then went storming out of the mall, got in the car, and my kids are getting in the car, and they're like, what just happened? But so we all make those kind of mistakes. But the greatest lesson that I've taught my kids is that there's going to be one of 2 things that's going to always happen with me. I'm going to apologize one of 2 ways. Number one, you know what? That was completely over the top, inexcusable. I don't know why I lost it, and I'm really sorry. And the other is, you know what? I asked you to do it, and you didn't do it, and I was mad, and that's it. So I always tell my kids it's going to be one or the other, but I have learned to apologize to my kids because we're not perfect. No parent's perfect, right? No employee's perfect. No spouse is perfect. You have to be humble and apologize. Call a spade a spade. I did a terrible job today, right? And my kids still laugh about it. I don't have too many irrational moments, but when I do, I apparently go full on. So whoever was in the food court at Crabtree Valley Mall about a year ago, that was me there, trying to get my teenagers to take selfie with their mom. So, we all have to learn a lesson. And I've been there, with my kids are only 17 months apart. So having two little people and you're in the grocery store and they're throwing things in the cart and you're in a hurry and, we all say things and do things we're not supposed to. And unfortunately, sometimes our kids repeat those things. I've had a lot of parents that are like, Miss Kim, so-and-so said to me, some foul words, and they totally got it from me. How do I fix that? And so I work with parents on those kind of things. But I think owning up to your mistakes is number one in parenting, and being able to say, look, you know what, I should have done this way, and teach them the right way to do it. See, a lot of times we just say, no, that's it. What I say happens, and there's no. You have to actually teach them how to do it because that's where they're learning. Yeah. They're learning from us.
Definitely. So that's a good story. I like how you screwed up. There was just lost it, and then you apologized, and there was a lesson learned on everybody's part there. Yeah. So that's definitely good. So you've been doing your business for a little while now. So you coach people on parenting and their own personal growth and development. What are some challenges that you're facing currently in your business?
Oh, wow. I would say that in my particular industry, one issue industry-wise is that people don't always like to admit that they're not doing a good job parenting, right? It seems like such a negative thing. It's kind of taboo. No, my kids don't listen, but every kid doesn't listen, And so getting people to feel really comfortable in being able to say, like, I own it, I need help, right? And because we all do. And industry-wise, as a business owner, I think the most important thing to me in the things that I'm struggling with right now is, building that clientele and really being able to have the technology in place and the social media and things like that. It can really be overwhelming. And so one of my biggest tips for anybody that I work with and some of my business partners is I tell them, like, you have to go all in. You have to just own what you're going to do and go all in. If you're treating it like a hobby, it's going to only be a hobby. If you treat it like a business, you can make it a business. And, my dad told me the same thing. I'm sure other parents have said, find something that you love and then find a way to make money doing it. And so I found something that I loved, which was helping families, which was working with children, teaching, and I found a way to make money doing it. And the benefit that families get from it is so tremendous. It's what drives me. And so I think that when you can really spend a lot of time educating yourself on, like I said, on the technology, on the social media, those are things that are driving small businesses right now. It is, you can do some, word of mouth and referrals and things like that, but we've seen how social media can catapult small businesses. Yeah. And that's where my focus has been over the last year, is learning about the algorithms and things like that we all struggle with on Facebook and Instagram and things like that, and really learning about who your audience is, what kind of content are they wanting, and then providing that. Yeah. And even if it's not, necessarily not necessarily what you would normally share, but what does your audience need to hear? What do the people you're working with need to hear? What are they responding to best? Yeah. And that's the kind of content that we have to be providing. So it takes some research and paying attention and a lot of educating yourself and just kind of being humble about it. Yeah. And not just putting out your own agenda, but really realizing, like, what is the consumer wanting? Yeah. And so, yeah.
That's interesting, because a lot of what you talked about reminds me of this time me and one of our marketing directors were talking about, you know, what's working and what's not working, and come to find out that we just didn't center our focus on our customer avatar.
Yes.
So we weren't doing what you just said that we
Yeah.
should have been doing.
You
know?
really have to sit down and say, okay, who is my ideal customer? And really build that avatar. You know, I had a coach when I first started that really laid out with me, okay, I need to know, what is her name? What is her age range? What is her job? Like, really every single detail about that avatar, and knowing that that's my customer, and I'm going to drive most of my business and content to that person. And so that's what I've done, and it's been really successful, because when you go into it just kind of haphazardly and you throw a whole bunch of content and see what sticks, I just find that you're gonna waste a lot of time, a lot of time and a lot of energy, and not get the results that you're looking for. And so that's, I think, the avatar, really focusing on who is your ideal client, and what are your customers wanting to consume from you?
Yeah,
What are they wanting to hear from you?
definitely.
And focusing on that.
I think that's good advice for anybody. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah. So we were talking a little bit before, and one of my favorite questions about the lesson. So you talked a little bit about one of your failures, but I don't think I would mind hearing a little bit about some successes that you've had,
All right.
and maybe how you've used whatever those successes were with you to implement into your business and your coaching.
Absolutely. There's one situation that I can recall with a family that I worked with, where the mom called me and said, we have got like DEFCON 4 happening here at night. You know, every night it's full blown chaos. And, you know, it was stressing the marriage, it was stressing the kids, it was just the whole house in general, to where the parents didn't even want to come home at night, because they're like, I don't want to go through that. And so she called me and we talked for a little bit, and then you know, I kind of went over some stuff with her on the phone, and then I went to their home. And I spent, you know, I said, well, let's sit down. I just want to kind of observe what's going on and see how things are going. And then I'll just kind of slowly weave my Miss Kim magic in there.
Right.
I was seated for about a minute and a half before the 4-year-old was standing on the loft balcony, holding toys over to chuck them down at us, like full force. And I said, okay, intro's over. Miss Kim is starting. I just popped right in, and I went right up those stairs, and I said, you know, this is unacceptable. I'm going to put this toy away. I tried to put it on the top shelf. He then went to climb the shelf, and I was like, nope, we're not doing that. And the key was, the whole time, is I had to remain calm. You cannot let your emotions take over. It is one of the hardest things to do as a parent, because we're angry, we're frustrated, we're this, we're that. And so not letting our emotions take over. So I brought him down from the shelf, and then he went to climb it up again. I brought him down from the shelf again, and I just kept redirecting. No, I'm sorry, we're not going to do that. No, I'm sorry, we're not going to do that. Okay, so then we're going to remove all these toys that are here. And then we went the next step and started removing the toys, and he kept going back. I mean, he was not going to let up. And it took 45 minutes of me continuously at the same tone of voice. We're not doing that now. I'm removing this toy. We're not doing this now. I'm removing this toy. Over, over, over again, until he got sick of me saying it. And he was like, oh my gosh, stop saying that. I said, then stop doing it. And all of a sudden it kind of clicked with them, like, oh, well, maybe I'm a little more in control of the situation than I thought I was, right? And whenever I get where I'm frustrated with my business, or frustrated with my kids, or frustrated with life in general, I think about that 45 minutes. You know, I've sat with an 18-month-old who I nannied for many years. And so obviously the result of the story went well. But at the time, it was torture, because I just wanted her to eat just the tiniest bit of a blackberry. I just wanted her to just try the blackberry. She refused. She was throwing everything off the tray, whatever. And I was like, listen, it's go time, right? It's you and me, and we're here, and you're trying that, right? And her mom happened to work from home. And so her mom is in her office, and she's texting me frantically. I don't know if I can handle this. How are you staying so calm? Whatever she's screaming. I said, I know, but we're staying here. We're going to stay here. That one took well over an hour and 15 minutes before we resolved that problem, but she ate that blackberry. But at that point, I had made the point to her, this is who I am. This is what we're doing. I didn't have to yell or scream at you. I didn't have to go hysterical, but I just kept redirecting you back to, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
Now that child is 6 and we're the bestest of friends, we're like thick as thieves. I love it. But you know, every time I get frustrated with life, with business, with whatever, I think about how when I'm in those situations, I turn on something that makes me go level. And I just have to stay at it and stay at it and stay at it. And when we are building businesses, right, it's very tempting to become emotional about stuff. Frustrating with clients, frustrated with marketing, frustrated with finances, whatever. And I just have to keep reminding myself that staying steady is the most productive way, because I'm showing that this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stay consistent and I'm going to make this successful. I tell my kids every single day, Miss Kim Talks will be household. It will be household name. It will be. I tell them that every single day to remind them and myself. Right? because I have to stay level. And it is one of the most difficult but necessary things when you are working with kids, working with animals, working with wherever, you know? We have to stay consistent. And so I think that it's probably one of the most valuable lessons I've learned that I've been able to then transfer with my own kids. The rule in my house is you can say anything you have to say as long as you say it in love. And that means respectful tone, no storming out, and no foul words or name calling, right? So I've had my daughter come to me and say, you know, may I talk with you? Whenever she takes that tone of voice, I get nervous, right? But she's my, arbiter of truth. She's the one that like brings me back into alignment. And she's like, you know, this happened earlier and you said da 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 da. And I didn't think that was fair. That's a hard one for me because I am a control freak. But I value the fact that she feels comfortable coming to tell me that so much that I have to suck it up and hear what she has to say. And I let her explain to me. And I said, I didn't have all the information and I didn't realize that. So give me a minute to kind of talk that through with myself and I'll be back with you. And my son does the same thing. They can both come to me and tell me absolutely everything. And because I set that up, they do. And they are even surprised sometimes. So they're like, why did I even come and just tell you all that? And I'm like, hopefully because I've set the environment for that. And I think that we need to set that environment with spouses. And we need to set that environment with boss and employees. Yeah. That your employees can come and talk to you. Your workers can come and talk with you. Your team members, your spouse can come and talk to you. And it's a safe place as long as there's no swearing, no name calling, no storming out, and you're being respectful. Yeah. You know, so the communication program that I designed was deep in me to have that out because it was so valuable for anybody. You know, I've taught it at businesses. I've gone and taught where they've brought staff in as a staff meeting and staff lunch, and we've talked about it there, and just talked about hearing one another and knowing that everybody hears and talks differently. So, yeah.
That's got to be hard because, like, I don't have kids, but I've had employees, I've had soldiers, I've had relationships, and just, you know, being able to set that environment and kind of those boundaries you talked about.
Exactly.
I can just imagine, like, with your kids, it has to be difficult, but it sounds like it works.
It has worked. It has worked. I've been a single mom since they were 4 and 2, and it was hard in the beginning, but then you just have to set an environment where they can talk to you about things and you can talk to them about things. But it's because I've created a safe space for them, and that's really important. And your employees should have an ability to come in and say, you know, I really felt like maybe this didn't go and not to, as the boss, just be like, well, I'm in charge and that's how it is.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes, like I said, the answers are going to be one or the other. I'm sorry, I didn't know everything, or sorry, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You have that option as the boss, as the parent, to say those things, but you have to be able to give them the chance to talk with you.
Mind before we move into the next segment.
Mhm.
I'm just going to talk a little bit. I told you before the show. So, folks, we're starting a question and answer segment tonight because we just started it. We don't actually have any questions from the audience or from our viewers to answer, but feel free. You can send us a message on Facebook. You can send us an email, welcome@businessandbrewshow.com. And we'll be sure to include those questions in these segments. If you know who our upcoming guest is and what the industry is going to be, what industry is going to be on the show, then you can feel free to ask specific questions to that industry. But between us and the guests we've had on, we're confident that we can, get you whatever answer you're looking for. We also have a group that we have our guests join on Facebook. So
Awesome.
we have a permanent line of communication with those people. And Gavin and I have been involved in plenty of different, sometime in the future, it'll be live, and then people will be calling in, and we'll have a good time. We'll have us, we'll have the guests, and we'll have the caller.
That sounds great.
I don't think I mentioned this before, but I appreciate you being on the show. It's kind of what fuels this. We thought when we first started that it was going to be a lot more difficult to get people in different industries.
Mm-hmm.
Gavin is in real estate, and it turns out that everyone is in real estate. So I was a little nervous about that at first, but I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come over here and sit down and talk with us.
Oh, I appreciate it.
So Kim, the next segment is 3 questions that we've had brewing. And the first one that I like to ask is, what do you like when you're not parenting, coaching, and wellness coaching? What do you like to do for fun?
What do I like to do for fun? First and foremost, I try to spend as much time with my kids as I can because they're grown adults now. Like I said, 20 and 19, so they're hard to narrow down to a schedule. We all work very different schedules, but so we try to do dinner a couple nights a week, spend some time with them. And then, like I mentioned before, I have 2 volunteer projects that I do. One of which is called blessingher.com, and it is a project where we provide feminine hygiene products to the ladies that are homeless in Raleigh and Durham. We have an outreach ministry from our church that I provide these things to them, and they distribute them each week. And it's something that I think, us as women, we kind of take for granted that it's something we just always have available, and it really is truly a need. And so it really was on my heart a couple weeks ago, and like I mentioned, diving in head first, I just went, boom, what am I going to call it? What's the name? I got to get the website, set up a website, set up an Amazon link, and set up a PayPal link, and that way anybody could just jump in and help. Yeah. And my front doorstep has been overwhelmed with Amazon boxes, and I'm so grateful because people have just been able to go on, pick 1 or 2 things, $5, $20, whatever, and send it, and I'm able to do a full bag of things for only $4 a piece. And so it's been really neat to do that. And then I know your connection with the military. We have family in the military. My ex was in the military. I work with a group called the Soldiers Angels, and we do boxes to care packages to active duty soldiers. And so it's been a really neat thing for me to be able to give back. Wholly, completely support the military and love everything that they stand for, and the fact that they just are so giving and so gracious. I'm so grateful for my brother-in-law who's done many tours in the Middle East and is still continuing to serve in the Army, and makes us so proud of his hard work. And so it's a fun thing for me to be able to give back. So I don't have a lot of downtime, but when I do, I'm all about like brain candy. So Hulu, Bravo shows, just caught up on Damages finally. I know it's been off for like 3 years, but finally got caught up on it. So but I'm kind of a work 20 out of 24 hours a day kind of person. So
I like it. I feel like that sometimes
Yes.
too, so I think it works
I think
out.
entrepreneurs in general are like that, right? We're just always thinking and moving and processing. You have to be really creative, I think, to be an entrepreneur. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. So the next question is, sorry, I lost my place there for a second, but what content are you currently consuming?
Well, a lot of Gary Vee.
Nice.
I mean, I think anybody that's in business right now is following and listening to what he's putting out there. I think that a lot of his inspiration, although I mean, I can hardly get past all the language. I mean, let's be honest. Come on, but when I do get past that, I enjoy so much that he is teaching what I was talking about earlier, and that is value content, right? Not just putting out what you yourself feel like the public needs, but seeing what they want and really providing that and providing it in many different ways. And I love he was just talking yesterday on a one that I saw about line also. But he started for adults because he found people were reading it and where it was catching their eye and it was, kind of they're consuming that content.
Yeah.
And so I think he's a great source of information, inspiration, and motivation if we're gonna be
Definitely.
too literal, about that. But so yeah, a lot of Gary Vee, taking in a lot of that.
That's cool. Yeah, he has a new YouTube channel that has no cussing on it.
I said, oh, there we go. Okay.
And I don't know if they censor it or what, but I think it's that his focus there is children. I think so they
Hey.
can watch his show and not
There
have
you
to make any cuss words.
I just find myself constantly having to turn the volume down. My dad's a pastor, my mom's a teacher, and so when I'm around them, I've got to turn it down. But Google's your mother is probably my number one favorite line that he's used because he's trying to convince this kid to stop relying on his parents for everything. And he says, Google is your mother now. Google is your mother now. I had to teach it to my own parents because they started staying with me for a short time here. And they're constantly wanting help with every kind of technology in our household. And I'm like, Google's your mother now. Google's your mother now. So very appropriate. But if you ever see that video, it's a great one of his.
That's awesome. So the last question, Kim, of course, is if somebody has questions or wants to know about you or your business or some general advice to get into the industry or help with their own children or their own personal wellness and growth, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way to reach out?
Thank you. Well, you can always find me on Facebook and Instagram under Ms. Kim Talks, MSKIMTALKS. I also have a website, MsKimTalks.com, where you can purchase some of the programs that I talked about. I have the Speak How They Hear, which is just a 1 hour, super easy to watch online program. There's a 30-minute No More Bedtime Battles that's on there. And then 2 of my main coaching things, which are a 4-week and an 8-week parenting program, where they do 1 hour live with me each week. And they have things to work on with their family. And then we do a check-in at the end of the week. And that is one of my most popular things that I do with families because it's easy for them. And it's something where I literally hand them information, they go do it, and then they come back and say, okay, that didn't work, or that did work. And then I go, all right, let's try it this way. And then I give them another piece of information. And so those are all on MsKimTalks.com. Again, also on Facebook. You can find my Facebook page, Ms. Kim Talks, and Instagram, Pinterest even.
Nice.
And so, it's my crowd. So I got the Pinterest crowd. So, but yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thanks so much again.
Thank you.
I would like to reiterate to our audience, if you found any value in this episode, any previous episode, whether you want to get into the industry, you find value in Miss Kim or the guests we have on, or you just want to follow along, please subscribe, follow, hit the like button, share the videos with your friends. In case you don't know, we are also live on YouTube, and we post the edited version Mondays by 2 on Facebook and YouTube as well. And the audio is always available on every major podcast platform. We use Anchor for that, so we're on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, and 6 or 8 different other ones that I can't even remember. The number one goal here is to spotlight the people in different industries. So hopefully we can bring everyone together, whether someone wants to get in business in general or wants to do it exactly what you do. Hopefully this conversation has shed a little light on that for them, and of course hopefully gets us all some new connections.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate you being on here.
Absolutely, thank you. It was I enjoyed it. Learned some things from you when I first came in, talking about the technology and things, and so what you knew, but
I love
but there's a lot for us to learn. So
That's cool. So, in case you guys aren't aware, we have that question answer segment, and now we have a brand new one that's going to take place as soon as I kill the live feeds. We call that the after show. So, if you want to see the after show, you're going to have to watch the recorded version later. And that's a little more casual conversation between Kim and I, where I think I'm going to ask her a few more specific, in-depth questions about the business. But I do appreciate you guys. Please, in the comments, once again, wish Gavin
yes,
a get well soon, and I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope everyone has a wonderful week. My name is Ryan Smelts. This is Kim with Miss Kim Talks, and you all have a wonderful day. We'll see you next week.
this is a nice beer.